Yo, what up guys, so as promised I'm making a video right now. It's Friday about 1 p.m. so it's a bit early. I promised on the weekend, but I'm making it early because I won't have time during the weekend. So what I wanted to show you is basic pen testing and basics of ethical hacking, what I have learned and what I know and stuff like this to basically teach you. So the first thing you should do whenever you're pen testing is you should do is run an nmap. Now, as you can see, I just started a scan a bit late because it takes a bit longer. What I'm going to talk to you guys when this finishes, and then I'll take you through the scan, which the information that gives us is very, very important and further of pen testing. Now, I just wanted to show you basically one more tool before the nmap finishes. So we can use net discover to find, So basically, by the way, whenever you write a command and it says like you must be root or you need privileges to run this command, all you do is just write either run sudo su, which launches you into root account. Now, if you don't have any basically experience with running sudo accounts, do not write sudo su, write sudo and a command, so net discover, which will basically, as you can just put your password in, which is, I'm going to tell you it's very, very secret. Oh, it's very secret. I need to type it again. There we go. So as you can see, it launches a scan of our network, and this is completely fine for me to show you because this is all virtual machines. I might blur the MAC addresses. So as you can see, it says IP address, and obviously if you just run if config in your machine, it shows you what your IP address is, so you don't mistake. I don't think it shows your actual virtual machine, but what you do is maybe you have two computers and you obviously want to find a specific one. It will show you what the computer is. It will show you here hostname, and it will show you a MAC vendor. As you can see, it says VMware, right? So if it's a VMware, it means it's a virtual machine. So that's obviously not something we would be looking for in a ethical hacking environment unless we are performing we are hacking into actual virtual machines. So this is just a cool tool you should use when finding or looking for IP addressing or virtual machines or whatever you're looking for. Just press Ctrl+C to close this, or just close the tab, and that's it. That's not really important anymore, and it takes a second, which I'll come back to in a minute. Right, so this is one of the most important things we first of all need to do. You cannot basically start ethical hacking or hack something without doing reconnaissance. Why? Reconnaissance is one of the most important things. Now, when I was first started hacking, I did not know how to use nmap, so I just ignored nmap, right, which is the reconnaissance. Now, this is, by the way, reactive reconnaissance. You cannot run nmap against random networks. Now, you cannot, as I said, you cannot run this against a random network. You cannot go to a cafe and just scan people's network. I mean, you could, they're not going to find you possibly, but you shouldn't, especially if you're going to a certain network. Why? Because you're going to leave fingerprints. When you run an nmap scan, what happens is the computer sends ping requests back and forth against certain devices and finds the services. And basically, if you were you could see this probably on Wireshark. I haven't checked it, but definitely can. You can see that basically, someone's spamming requests and he's getting back information, which is illegal, right? Obviously, if you scan someone's network, nothing's gonna happen, but you shouldn't. I'm telling you this because I know there will be people, yeah, he doesn't know anything. I know there'll be people trying to be a smartass and go to jail. Don't go to jail. Download a virtual machine and try hack something that is legal to do, right? I'm telling you, this is a good advice. People will be able to, I could basically trace back if someone, for example, done something, right? You could definitely trace it back. There's so many technologies, there's so many tools, everything can be traced back now. So let's go back to ethical hacking now. So now this is not important information really. As you can see, it says some packet DOS CVE. Now, if you know what DOS means, DOS is basically denial of service. DDoS is distributed denial of service, which is one of the strongest denial of service attacks, and it's really hard to defeat or fight against if you don't have a good plan. For example, your home computer doesn't stand any chances against a DDoS attack unless you're using a VPN or a Tor network to change your IP address, because you can all you do is just change your IP address and you're back online. So DOS is not really, in ethical hacking, DOS is not really that important. I mean, it is, because the part of the ethical hacking or cybersecurity is CIA triad: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Availability is DOS, because you defeat availability by shutting down services. The services need to be available 24/7. That's the first thing you'll be taught in cybersecurity. You should be taught, at least you should have been taught at least that. If not, then I just told you. So the first scanning, as you can see, I'm running a scan. The first 1,000 ports are being scanned. You can decide to scan 65,684 ports. I don't know, there's 65,000 ports, right? I can't remember the exact number. That doesn't matter. You don't really need to go above 1,000. Why? Because the most of the services that we are looking for are the within 1,000 range. So the HTTP, SSH, Telnet, FTP, other services are, I think, 53 as well, if I'm not wrong. One of the services was 53. I can't remember what exactly what service was. That are within 1,000 range. Now, what are ports? I've did a video on ports. Ports are basically services, right? So if you were to transfer files to a server, you would use FTP, which is port 21. You can go on Wikipedia and you can go look through the ports. You don't need to remember all of them, but you should know the most basic ones, which are, for example, F1 21 is FTP, as I said. SSH is 22. Telnet. So 22 is SSH, which is vulnerable if it's not configured properly. Plus, I would not really trust with SSH. You shouldn't have it open. I have this basically. I don't like having too many vulnerabilities open, right? So you should have as least ports open as possible, because every single port that you have open is a vulnerability. 23 is Telnet, which is also insecure. It allows remote connection. And 80 is HTTP, which is unsecure. 443 is HTTPS. And there's many other ones which you should get familiar with. You don't have to, as I said, you don't have to remember all of them, but you should get familiar with some of them, because this is important that you know. Because, for example, it will speed up your process of ethical hacking or pen testing, right? Because if you did a scan like me, right, and then you have to learn all these ports, it would just take longer. Now, also, as I said in the last video, which was basically sort of an announcement of this video, that port 80, if it's open on a specific device, or port 8080, it usually means that that device, specific device, is a web server or hosts a website, which is important because then we can scan that specific website for certain exploits, right? We can say, okay, what are the exploits for that? We can find what sort of CLMS, I always forget, CMS or CMS, basically the system, right? WordPress, right? WordPress it is using, right? So we can check maybe that WordPress is vulnerable, which I know that there is, because I get emails from WordPress every week about vulnerabilities that have been patched. And they're high numbers, because 135 vulnerabilities is quite a lot. And WordPress is one of the most used systems in the world, because it's simple, it's good, and it has so many plugins. Let's go down a bit. Now, this is no more important information. As you can see, it says 997 TCP ports have been closed. If you go down a little bit, as you can see, these are the same ports. However, what happens is it gives you some additional information, and because we have used a Nmap scan, including script vulnerabilities, it scans for vulnerable, basically services and vulnerabilities. So as you can see, we have a likely vulnerable. As I will show you here, HTTP slow lotus check vulnerable, slow lotus DOS attack, which means denial of service attack, IDs, and this it shows you the CVE. CVE are basically exploits, and it shows you some description and some extra stuff. Now, this is the HTTP. Now, if anything starts with HTTP, that means it's a website, right? HTTPS as well. So as you can see, HTTP enum secret, and it says potentially interesting folder, which indeed it is. I'll show you in a second. And also it says MAC address, VMware. It tells us that it's a virtual machine, a device running general purpose, running Linux. It tells us the Linux type, OS, CPU, Linux kernel, free, CPU, Linux. Doesn't really interest me anymore. So let me just show you the website. So if you go to the website, because by the way, every single IP address, if, as I said, if it has 80, port 80, it's a website. So what you can do is go HTTP, 2 dots or colon, I don't know what's it called, / / / 192.168.15.133. And if you go here, as you can see, it says it works, but you can't do anything. You can't do anything else. If you were to basically now, as I said, I said on Twitter, thinking out of the box and pen testing is one of the most important things to do. So what you can do is go to the website now, because it doesn't tell you, it doesn't give you a button or any other options, doesn't mean it's necessarily not useful. Now there's nothing here, as you can see, there's literally nothing here, right? So this is no use. But because we done a reconnaissance scan, what we can do is /secret, and it takes us to a whole new website. Now, as you can see, it launches a new website, right, on the secret link. Now, this website is it might take some time to load, but it's just how long it takes, right? So, the first exploit I have found is basically entries and comments. These are 2 files. You can click on these, it should download or should take you to a file, and it will say basically some confidential stuff which it shouldn't be there, or it should be basically, as you can see, downloaded something I'll show you in a second. Basically the stuff shouldn't be either protected or it shouldn't be there. So if you open the folder, this is it's a PDF or some kind of file, right? Or a RSS file. So basically, as you can see, it says some stuff, automatic link, href, that's basically link, description, last build, just some item. Now, if you go a bit down, maybe it's not this file, I guess this file. But anyways, what you should do is check every single file, right? Oh, sorry, it says DC Creator, a WordPress commenter. But if you take another file, which is entries RSS, and you open this file, it will say admin, there we go, DC Creator, admin, right? Now, there's not really anything else here, but this is admin, DC Creator admin, right? Which is important because that means it could be a login, right? It could be a login or a user. If we have a user or a login, we're halfway there. Why? Because what we can do is we can brute force the password. Now, I highly do not recommend brute forcing. What I have done yesterday, I was basically playing around with this virtual machine. I ran Hydra for 3 hours. Now, either the password is very, very complicated, which could be because the more complicated the password is, the harder it is to pen test, right? Because brute force, basically what it does this, right? It does every combination in the world, and basically it will combine every single combination in the world. So it takes long. That's why hacking sometimes can be very, very a long process, right? So that's why also this is the importance of. Now also pen testing is not just to hack, learn how to hack, it's also how to secure. So this is, I'm teaching you both sides. I'll be possibly going at the end of the video, I'll be teaching you how to secure events like this and much more. So make sure to watch the whole video. Now I'm not planning to make like an hour video. It should not be longer than, I hope, half an hour. I'm on 14 minutes right now, so I'll try to go as fast as I can, but I also want to give you as much information as I have learned and as I know. So basically, as I said, it gives you a login. Now, if it gives you a login, as I said, we are halfway there. Now, if you look for the website carefully, it says hello world, just nothing important. I've not actually been there, I think. Yeah, just WordPress, nothing important. But if you can see, it says meta and it says login. If you go to login, it gives us admin. We have the login, right? We have the login. So what we can do is try admin, and we could try maybe administrator, right? It doesn't work. That's fine. But what about administrator 1? Doesn't work either. Okay, how about we try the most simplest thing, which I have found in high school. Yes, I was a very, very interested boy in high school. So what we can do is admin. And if you do admin, it gets us through to the administrator. As you can see, the link changes. It says W login. I should change to W admin in a second. Now, whenever you see WP login, PHP or WP admin, WP contents, WP whatever, and that means it's WordPress. That means the CLMS is WordPress, right? So as you can see, we are logged in, and now basically we can steal data. For example, we can do users, we can steal the data, we can have an email, we can steal their data. There's a lot of things we can do, right? So we have successfully punted the website. Now there's many exploits that you could have run through Metasploit console, and we can upload some files which could reverse the connection, and we could reverse the connection to the machine, which gives us access, which I have attempted to do. However, for some reason Metasploit console doesn't allow me to do that. So I have found another way to backdoor the machine, which I'll show you right now. So I'm gonna close this because we don't really need this anymore. As I said, this is basically just some website, right? There's no data, obviously, but if you're a hacker, this is what you want. You could steal the data and, I don't know, ask for money, right? This is what hackers do. They hack into stuff, they ask for money. Most likely the company doesn't have that much money because they will ask millions and thousands and stuff like that. Some useless. You should never pay ransom. How to prevent ransom? You should have a backup of your files. All you do is just format the computer and load a backup. There you go, done. That should ransom gone. Unless they destroy your motherboard or your components, but that's not really something that's easy to do. So now the first thing, another thing is what I want to show you is we have this, right? As I said, we have FTP and we have SSH. Now, as I said, brute forcing SSH is out of question in my opinion because it takes too long. As I said, I ran Hydra for 3 hours and I did not even find the password. So I was like, okay, fuck this. So what we can do is run Metasploit console, which is if you don't know what Metasploit console is, sorry, MFS console, sorry. I'm talking and I'm doing two things at once. So MSF console is Metasploit. Metasploit has thousands of exploits that work with basically anything. There's basically, I'll show you, for example, we can hack crypto, right? As you can see, there's cryptolog, cryptographic. Well, that's actually no, but there is crypto wallets that you can hack because I've seen it before. There you go, Windows Gather Bitcoin wallet. There is macOS, I think, Apple passwords. If I'm not wrong, Apple password. Yeah. So there is, as you can see, Apple Airport, Apple Remote, Apple Airport Extreme. I don't know what that is. Apple Airport. I think it's the Apple Air, maybe. MacBook Air, whatever. Apple TV, Apple TV, Apple TV, Apple iOS, default SSH password vulnerability. So as you can see, there's basically exploits for everything. A Metasploit is one of the best things you can get. And it comes with every Kali. So you can exploit, and you can do the same exploit I'm doing right now. So, now, I might have forgotten to show you guys that the versions of certain ports and services are important. So for example, I know the versions of the services. For example, FTP has a 1333C FTP-DSD, if I can remember exactly. I'll show you on the Metasploit, right? So the versions of it are important. I don't want to run another scan because it takes too long. It takes about 7 minutes to scan it. It takes too long. So just take note of the versions of the ports. They are very, very important because you need to know if you want to exploit it, right? Because there could be millions of versions and certain exploits work for certain versions. So what we need to go to is search exploit. So as I said, FTP was 1.33C. And if you look on this version, which is Pro FTPD, sorry, 1.33C backdoor command execution, and it says rank, excellent. Now this is all important information. Name of the exploit, disclosure date, not really, it's not really, it might be sort of important. Rank, which is excellent, which is we always want excellent because that gives us sort of 99.9% of high success chance that it will work. Check, not necessarily important because it says no, but it still works. Description is also important because it tells us the exact version and it tells us what it does, because some things that could be, as you can see, right, description, as I just showed you before, it tells you what it is. Apple Remote Desktop Root Vulnerability. macOS X root privilege escalation, which is not actually that. It's a quite new exploit because it's 2017, so it's only 6 years old. It has nearly actual anniversary. That's not bad. Right, so let me just clear the screen and let's find the exploit. So as we saw that exploit, so what we can do is search FT 1.33c, which is the only one there. Remember that to pull the full name or try different combinations, but because there's only one, I'll put one. Now what we can do is, instead of using use and exploit and Unix, what we can do is just use 0. And as you can see, it works. Now we need a payload. Now exploits are payload. What are these things? I'll explain everything. Let me just actually go through these things at once at a time. So what is an exploit? Exploit is a certain vulnerability, a piece of code. It could be basically anything that makes us being able to basically run that exploit, as I said, like a piece of code. It could be anything, and work and get into the virtual machine or into a system, right? And we need a payload. So we're gonna use a set payload. It doesn't matter if you use capital or lowercase. So we need cmd//unix reverse, and it works. Now, what is a payload? So basically a payload is something that we want to get out of. So what we could run is like a keylogger is a payload. What we could run is backdoor, right? Now this is a exploit. It allows us backdoor, but there's like a, as I said, I'll show you. So we can like get a keylogger payload, right? As you can see, there's a keylog recorder, which is post exploitation only. And what we could do is other payloads. So let's look like payload. There's millions of millions. As you can see, there's 1,472 payloads, as you can see, and that is a lot of stuff. We can get WordPress, Windows, right? Windows VNC server. There's a lot of payloads that we can basically get. Windows Interpreter, reverse TCP, Windows Interpreter TCP is basically allows us to get reverse shell connection, right? So let's go back and I'll show you. Where's the, sorry, wrong screen. Okay, so let's go back to our, what we were doing. So now the most important command is show options. As you can see, there's some important, very important information. The first thing we have is name, current setting, required, description. Now, if it says required and it says no, we don't need to put anything in. So we're gonna avoid these two things. We're gonna do this proxies, sorry, our hosts, which it says required, right? Which is the target host. Now this will, you need to put our hosts 99% of the time, apart from TCP hand stagers, which basically doesn't require our host, because then we just need to wait till someone connects to us and we can reverse the connection. So what we can do is set our hosts 192.168.115.133. Now, our host stands for remote host, which is our victim, right? Now, as you can see, our host is done. If you go to show options, it will be completed, right? Our port, remote port, we don't need to change this because we're using FTP. We do not need to change this. Do not change this. Now, as you can see, payload options. Payload options is important because this is us now. So name lhost, which is the listen address, and interface may be specified. What does this mean? The listen address, this means that we are listening to the connections being made, and this is us. So what we need to do is set lhost, and what we can do is either type our IP address manually, which is the long way, or what we can do is write ETH0, and if you go to show options, it shows us our IP address. This is my Kali's IP address, right? So now L port, we don't need to change the L port, that's fine. Now what we can do is either we can run or exploit. But before we run this, I want to give you some more information. Meterpreter. Meterpreter is basically a piece of Metasploit console which gives us connection to the device, right? When you have Meterpreter, you're allowed to type commands in and you can run certain exploits, which I'll show you in a second. Shell, what is shell? Shell is basically like your sort of login. It's like SSH sort of, when you're actually logged into the device, and it allows you sort of directly in the system to run the commands. And that's it, I believe. I don't need to tell you anything else, I believe. I think I've said anything. That's the most important stuff. So now we're going to run either exploit or run. Exploit or run. So we're going to run. So as you can see, it gives us some outputs. So it says started reverse TCP double handler on one, and this is our IP address. Now why? Because it says reverse TCP double handler reverse, which means we are reversing the connection. And as you can see, it says we're sending the backdoor command to this IP address, accepted the first client connection. Sorry, I got a message. And as you can see, accepted the second command, and it says command shell session 1 opened and the IP address, and it says star and at whatever time. That means, well, listen, as long as it says command shell session 1 opened, we're in, right? So what we can do now is we can do stuff like, sorry, it doesn't work. So we need to write ls, and as you can see, it gives us a structure. Now you might not recognize the structure, which is absolutely okay because this is for beginners. This is a Linux structure. This is a Linux operating system. I've said this before. You should learn Linux for ethical hacking because it's very, very important. If you want to learn Linux hacking, you need to learn Linux, right? Why? Because Kali Linux is one of the most important systems in hacking, right? It has 600 tools. There are more extended versions, but my Kali Linux contains 600. I don't think you need much more than this unless you are going to do ethical hacking 24/7, which then I possibly do recommend. Or you can always download, right? It doesn't take long to download a certain file or a script or a Python file, whatever, right? Whatever you need. So now what we can do is go cd home. CD stands for change directory. CD home, ls, cd marlinspike, and we can do ls, right? And as you can see, we are into his sort of folder, and marlinspike, which is the victim, that's his name. As I said, I downloaded this from Hub. It's not me who set it up. It's basically I downloaded that, right? And we have backdoored, which shows us that we have backdoored into the FTP. Desktop, there's no files in desktop, there's no file documents. There might be something in downloads, I'm not sure. Now we don't need to actually go to the directory to get into it. I do ls because I like to know where I am. This sort of tells me where I am, but what you can do to check out where you are is pwd. It shows you the working directory, print working directory, right? So what you can also do is ls downloads. I showed you this in Linux, and as you can see, we don't need to go to the folder directly to list it. What we can do is ls music, maybe he has something in music, no. ls pictures, maybe he has something in the pictures, no. ls examples.desktop, I don't know what that is, maybe that's a directory. What you can do is lsla, which shows the whole directories, including the permissions, right? There's a lot of stuff you can do, as you can see, SSH, Nano, MySQL, Mozilla Local. There's a lot of stuff you can take. Now, what I wanted to actually check is, yeah, so I can't do anything, that's fine. So what I have actually done, I'll show you in a second. So now what you can do is we can close this sort of session to run in the background, and we can run another exploit, but we can run as a keylogger. We don't need to announce ourselves straight away. We don't need to upload a virus or anything to let the victim know. Now this is ethical hacking, right? I'm telling you sort of from the bad hacker's view, but also remember that this is ethical hacking. I'm not teaching you how to hack to be a bad person. I want you to be a good person. I want you to work for a company, and I want you to succeed, right? So what we need to do is now what we can, as I said, so we need to erase this background and type yes. And now what happens is the session is backgrounded. It's not aborted. Make sure you don't press Ctrl+C because you might abort the session. If it says abort, press N. No. Sessions. And now as you can see, we have a session in place. It's still here. We're still connected to the device. As long as we don't turn off the computer or we don't shut off the victim machine, we are still connected. Now what we can do is either we can, for example, what we could do is upload our own sort of like viruses that allows us another backdoor into the system, or allows us remote connection, or allows us SSH, or allows us to remote desktop protocol, RDP. There's a lot of stuff we can do within the system, right? So what I'll do now is I want to run an exploit. Now, however, it does work, but for some reason, it doesn't give me the keys that I want, but I'll show you what to do. So if you go to search SSH, and I think it's Unix, I might need to find the exploit again. Right, give me a second, guys. I just need to find the exploit because I forgot what it was called. Right, so I found the SSH credentials. Now, by the way, I forgot to tell you guys the exploits. There's a different stuff. So exploit is an exploit. Exploit, as I said, it's an exploit used to exploit a device, something we use to break into. Post is usually something that allows you to do post exploitation. So keyloggers, I don't know, stealing SSH keys like I'm going to do in a second. We can do a lot of stuff that is important, or we could do a lot of stuff after. Auxiliary is usually a scanner that allows us to basically scan certain things, as here, like example, auxiliary scanner allows us to identify public keys or log in public key and more. And as you can see, it says also Linux, which is still as the operating system. If it says Linux, it's only for Linux, right? Multi is usually meaning multi operating system, so Windows, Linux, whatever. HTTP tells us basically tells us the website. Sorry, if it's for like a website or a system, whatever, right? It tells us the exploit, what it kind of exploit is. As you can see, it says Windows here. It says scanner here, so you should always identify your exploits. You will learn this as you go along. I'm not going to tell you too much because I could be here till tomorrow. Already I have a recording of 32 minutes. I don't want to make this too long, so I'm going to show you some extra stuff and then I'll leave you to it for you to explore. So we're going to run this certain exploit. So we're going to do is use for show options. And now, as you can see, we just require a session. So what we need to do is set session 1, because we only have one session, right? As I said, I'll show you sessions again. So sessions, we have one session ID. We need to put the ID. So we need to do this set session 1. And what we need to just do is run. Now, for some reason, it does work, this exploit, right? As you can see, looting, home, Marlin Spike, SSH directory. However, for some reason, I don't get any outputs. I don't get any sort of keys for me to further exploit and log in through SSH. And maybe it just doesn't work, or something's wrong, or I don't know what has happened. So that will be it for ethical hacking. What I'm going to now is take you through cybersecurity, and we're going to go to switch to Ubuntu, and I'm going to sort of explain how to protect yourself and make sure what are the mistakes of not making sure that this doesn't happen. So the first thing for from the cybersecurity view is obviously, and also what I forgot to mention is you can log in anonymous through FTP, which shouldn't be allowed. So that's the first thing from cybersecurity view. FTP should not allow anonymous logins, and FTP port shouldn't be open all the time, or it should be configured properly, which is not. So this is this first cybersecurity problem. It's a vulnerability, unconfigured FTP. SSH isn't configured either because it allows us to basically brute force the password, which I haven't done because it would take too long. It could take you hours and hours, right? I don't know what the password is, but we still have managed to exploit the machine. Port 80, which is HTTP, this shouldn't have been also open. It should be 443, right? It should be HTTPS, secure version of HTTP. 443 is HTTPS secure, and HTTP 80 is unsecure, right? So these three ports shouldn't be really open, right? Another thing, on the website I showed you that the password was admin. It should never be admin. It should be something more complicated. Even the login should be more complicated, and the password should be definitely something along at least 16 characters, upper, lowercase, something random, special characters, and something not reused. Remember, don't reuse your password because it's easy to hack into. And also, if someone hacks you on your account, whatever happens, they could steal a database. What can happen next? They can get your password unhashed, and then they can hack into your account. Once they get on your one account, they can, like, example, they hack into your email, right? Once they hack into your email and you have the passwords like to every single account or whatever, maybe not email because that's a bit stupid to knowing the password because you can reset the password directly. But what happens is if you have an email, if you get a login and the password is the same and the logins are the same, then you can just basically hack into every account that has the same password, right? So never have the same password. As I said, secret, you can run this through Directory Buster. I didn't have to because Nmap showed me this. There's no other interesting directory. I think I've run Directory Buster, it didn't show me anything else. Remember to check the versions of the ports. This is also important. Remember to keep everything up to date, up to your operating system. And that's sort of it, I think, from Kali. Let me just go to Ubuntu and let me show you what the mistakes are on Ubuntu, which is, I don't think there's a lot. Right, so we have Ubuntu. As you can see, Ubuntu is running. I'm using a virtual machine, by the way. So what is important is that this is a Ubuntu version 16.04, I believe, or 16.0.2, which is a very, very old operating system, which, because we have a operating system of Ubuntu 22.04. So the first thing you need to know is that you need to keep updating your operating system at all times. The second thing is Ubuntu, this specific operating system allows us to log in as a guest, which is also another problem, because you should not allow guests. It's also a Windows by default disables the guest account, right? Obviously for security reasons, so you should do the same. Every account should have a password and should be protected at all times, right? Another thing is also it's very, very insecure. As I said, it's very, very insecure. The ports are open, widely open. You can FTP, you can SSH into it if you know the password, which you can brute force. You can do the same with login. WordPress is unsecure because it's an old version of WordPress. It's not using HTTP, it should be using HTTPS, obviously, to prevent this type of brute forcing and other exploits. And there's many, many other ones. I'm not going to go through all of them because I could be here all day. Plus I would have to go through my notes and stuff to check. By the way, whenever you're hacking, what you should do is always copy notes from scans. So if you ever happens, for example, you run some commands, right? What you should do is copy it using Ctrl-Shift-C, Ctrl-Shift-V. Or what you can just do is go to, or you can just, like, you can copy this, right? Copy selection, paste, paste. And as you can see, we have the notes. So you should have here, like, what ports are open. So 21, 22, and 80, and we can write FTP, we can write SSH, HTTP and SSH, right? Now remember that hackers sometimes they take ages to hack into things, right? So don't get stressed out if something doesn't work on your first try. It happens to me, it happens to a lot of people, happens to professionals. Now the only reason it takes me so quick on the video is because obviously I practiced before. You're not gonna be a professional. You're gonna be a professional when the first time you launch Kali Linux, right? It'll take you months. Hackers, black hat hackers take months to hack into things because obviously there's so many that it's either too secure, or basically it takes them too long time, or it takes them very, very long because of the security, and they maybe get one step and they take another step in a couple months. Basically, you cannot basically be a professional. Obviously, I know that certain exploits, for example, MS-17 works on every single Windows from 7 to 10. I believe it works on 10. Don't think I've tried on 10, but it works on 7, works on XP, Windows 7, works on Windows 8, and other versions of Windows as well. So, I hope you enjoyed this mini course about ethical hacking. I went through the virtual machine. Make sure to download it and check out yourself. Make sure to check out my newsletter, check out my card profile, which is all my socials, all my information. Remember to check out my Udemy courses. I only have one, but I'm in the middle of making a networking one, which is about Cisco Packet Tracer as well. So hope you enjoyed this course. Make sure if you have any questions, if you require any additional knowledge, questions, whatever you need, make sure to contact me on Twitter. I'll be able to help you out. See you later, guys.